If you ever find yourself standing beside a river after dark, do not look into the water, no matter what you hear, no matter whose voice calls your name, and no matter how certain you are that the face staring back at you is only a reflection. Because, according to an old legend whispered through generations in a forgotten valley, there is a river that remembers death, and once it shows you a face, someone is already doomed. The Black River. The village of Black Hollow does not appear on most maps. It lies deep within a forested valley, somewhere between the mountains and the sea. The place is small. A church, a few dozen houses, a single road leading in and out, and at the edge of the village, a river. The locals call it Black River, not because the water is polluted, not because of the mud, but because even on the brightest summer day, the surface looks almost completely black. Old photographs from the 19th century show the same thing, the same dark water, the same unnatural reflections, the same uneasy expressions on the faces of those standing near its banks. For generations, the villagers followed one simple rule: never approach the river after sunset. Children learned it before they learned to swim. Visitors were warned immediately. Fishermen returned home before dusk. Hunters avoided the shoreline. And nobody ever looked into the water after dark. Most outsiders assumed it was simply superstition. Every isolated community has stories, ghost stories, monster stories, warnings invented to keep children from wandering too far. But Black Hollow's legend was different, because nobody could explain why the disappearances kept happening. Over the last 200 years, dozens of people had vanished near the river. Travelers, hunters, workers, tourists. Most were never found. The few bodies recovered showed no obvious cause of death. No wounds, no signs of violence. Nothing. Only expressions of absolute terror frozen on their faces, as though they had witnessed something impossible moments before they died. The oldest written account dates back to 1813, a journal belonging to a local priest. The final pages describe a farmer who ignored the warnings. The farmer reportedly went to the river one evening after drinking heavily. The next morning, he claimed he had seen a face staring back at him from beneath the water. A face he recognized immediately: his younger brother. 3 days later, the brother drowned. The priest recorded dozens of similar stories. Every one of them ended the same way: a face, a death, a funeral, and another warning added to the legend. As decades passed, the story spread. People began calling the river cursed. Others claimed ancient warriors slept beneath its surface. According to local folklore, centuries earlier, a brutal battle had taken place in the valley. Hundreds of soldiers died. Their bodies were thrown into the river. Their spirits never left. Instead, they remained trapped beneath the black water, watching, waiting, searching for new souls to join them. Most historians dismissed the tale. There was no evidence of such a battle, no records, no archaeological findings, nothing. But the villagers never cared about evidence because they had something far more convincing: experience. And every generation carried its own stories. Stories nobody wanted to tell after dark. Years ago, a documentary filmmaker named Daniel Mercer arrived in Black Hollow. He was known for investigating paranormal myths and unexplained folklore across Europe and North America. Most of his films followed the same pattern: a strange story, a few interviews, a rational explanation. The end. Daniel expected Black River to be no different. At first, the villagers refused to speak with him. Many simply closed their doors. Others became visibly nervous whenever he mentioned the river. One elderly woman crossed herself and walked away without saying a word. The reaction only increased his curiosity. After several days, he finally convinced a retired fisherman named Arthur Hale to speak on camera. Arthur was 78 years old. His face looked permanently weathered by decades spent outdoors. When Daniel asked whether he believed the legend, the old man remained silent for nearly a minute. Then he answered, "Belief doesn't matter." Daniel laughed. "What does that mean?" Arthur looked directly into the camera. "It doesn't matter whether you believe in the river. The river believes in you." The interview ended shortly afterward. That single sentence would later become the most replayed moment in the entire documentary. At the time, however, Daniel considered it nothing more than local superstition. The next evening, he organized a nighttime filming session. His crew strongly objected. The villagers strongly objected. Even Arthur warned him not to do it, especially after sunset. Daniel ignored them all. Shortly before midnight, he and 2 cameramen arrived at the riverbank. The footage still exists, and to this day, nobody has fully explained what appears in it. At first, everything seems normal. Dark trees, flowing water, wind moving through the valley. Daniel speaks directly to the camera. He explains the legend. He jokes about ghosts. He promises viewers that by sunrise, he will prove the entire story false. Then something changes. The audio captures a faint sound, almost like distant voices. One cameraman notices it first. He asks if someone is standing across the river. The opposite bank appears empty. Daniel laughs and continues filming, but the voices become louder. Not loud enough to understand, only whispers. Dozens of them, perhaps hundreds. The microphones record them clearly. Experts later analyzed the audio. No known source was ever identified. As the whispers continue, Daniel approaches the edge of the water. The camera follows. The river's surface appears perfectly still, far too still, almost like black glass. Daniel shines a flashlight downward. For several seconds, nothing unusual happens. Then he freezes. The camera operator asks, "What is wrong?" Daniel does not answer. Instead, he continues staring into the water. His breathing becomes noticeably heavier. The cameraman walks closer. "What do you see?" Daniel whispers something. The microphone barely captures it. After extensive enhancement, investigators believe he said only 4 words. "I know that face." The crew immediately asks what he means. Daniel never explains. He simply backs away from the river. His expression has completely changed. The confident filmmaker seen earlier is gone. Now he looks terrified, truly terrified. The crew decides to leave. The recording ends shortly afterward. Back at the hotel, Daniel refuses to discuss what happened. According to witness statements, he barely slept. Several times during the night, he reportedly checked the windows and repeatedly asked whether anyone had heard water flowing nearby. Even though the hotel stood miles from the river, the following morning, he canceled the remainder of the production. No explanation, no interviews, no farewell. He simply ordered the crew to pack their equipment. Then he left Black Hollow. 3 days later, Daniel Mercer disappeared. His vehicle was discovered abandoned beside a highway nearly 200 miles away. The doors were locked. His wallet remained inside. His phone remained inside. There was no sign of struggle, no evidence of foul play, and no trace of Daniel himself. Authorities searched for months. Nothing. It was as though he had stepped out of reality itself. The unfinished documentary was eventually archived. Most people forgot about it, except for one detail, a detail discovered years later by accident. When technicians reviewed the original footage frame by frame, they noticed something standing beneath the water behind Daniel. A face, not a reflection, not an optical illusion. A face looking upward from impossible depth. And when investigators compared old photographs of Daniel Mercer, the face matched him perfectly. For years, the footage remained hidden, locked away in storage archives, occasionally discussed on internet forums, occasionally analyzed by amateur investigators, but mostly forgotten. Then, nearly 12 years after Daniel's disappearance, something happened that brought Black River back into public attention. A university research team arrived in Black Hollow. Their purpose had nothing to do with ghosts, nothing to do with legends. They were studying unusual geological formations beneath the valley. The team consisted of 6 researchers, scientists, engineers, survey specialists, people trained to dismiss superstition, people who trusted data more than stories. The villagers warned them anyway. Every single one received the same advice. Stay away from the river after dark. Most laughed. Some rolled their eyes. A few politely thanked the locals before ignoring the warning completely. Among the researchers was a hydrologist named Emily Carter. Unlike the others, Emily became fascinated by the legend. Not because she believed it, because she wanted to understand why so many intelligent people continued believing it. She began interviewing residents, collecting stories, comparing dates, looking for patterns. And eventually she noticed something disturbing. The descriptions never changed, not over decades, not over centuries. Every witness reported the same thing, the same black water, the same whispers, the same face, and the same outcome. Death followed shortly afterward. As a scientist, Emily found that impossible. Legends evolve, memories change, people exaggerate. But somehow, this story had remained identical for generations. That realization unsettled her far more than the legend itself. A week into the expedition, the team installed environmental monitoring equipment along the riverbank. Motion sensors, thermal cameras, audio recorders, everything operated continuously, especially at night. The goal was simple: collect objective evidence, nothing more. The first few nights revealed nothing unusual. Then came the seventh night. At exactly 2:17 a.m., every audio recorder activated simultaneously. Thousands of hours of silence suddenly interrupted by a single event. The recordings captured whispers, hundreds of overlapping voices. Some sounded male, others female, some old, some young. Many seemed to speak different languages, but one phrase appeared repeatedly, again and again and again. After enhancement, experts identified the words, "Look at the water." The message repeated continuously for almost 4 minutes, then stopped instantly, as though someone had switched off every voice at the same moment. The researchers were stunned. No explanation fit the data. No nearby source existed. No radio interference was detected. Nothing. The phenomenon should not have been possible. But the strangest discovery came from the thermal cameras. At the exact moment the voices appeared, the river temperature dropped dramatically. Not by a few degrees, by nearly 20. For 3 minutes, the water became colder than the surrounding air, colder than the rocks, colder than the night itself. Then everything returned to normal. The footage spread through scientific circles, then online, then internationally. Black River became famous. Tourists arrived. Content creators arrived. Curiosity seekers arrived. The villagers watched with growing dread, because they knew what always happened when outsiders ignored the warnings. Eventually, someone would look, and the river would answer. Emily stayed longer than the rest of her team. She told colleagues she was close to understanding something important, something hidden beneath centuries of stories. Her final journal entry was discovered weeks later. It contained only a few lines. No scientific notes, no measurements, no conclusions. Just a handwritten message. I finally understand. The river does not predict death. The river chooses it. That night, Emily walked alone to the river. Security cameras captured her leaving the research station at 11:42 p.m. She never returned. The search lasted almost a month. No body was recovered, no evidence was found, only her flashlight, lying beside the water, still switched on, pointing directly toward the river, toward something hidden beneath the surface. Years later, divers attempted to explore the deepest section of Black River. The operation ended after only 23 minutes. Every diver reported the same experience, a sensation of being watched. Not from above, from below. One diver later described it during an interview. His voice shook the entire time. I kept thinking I saw faces, thousands of faces. They weren't floating, they were standing. When I looked deeper, he stopped speaking for several seconds, then whispered, "They were looking up at me." Final part begins. The oldest legend of Black Hollow is rarely told. Most villagers refuse to repeat it because it explains what the shadows beneath the river truly are. According to the story, the warriors beneath the water are not trapped there. They are guards, watching over something far older, something that existed before the village, before the forest, before recorded history, something sleeping in the darkness beneath the riverbed. The faces people see are not victims, not warnings, not predictions. They are invitations. Every person who looks into Black River after dark leaves something behind. A memory, a fear, a piece of their soul. And over centuries, those pieces have gathered beneath the water, growing, becoming something larger, something aware, something hungry. The villagers believe that one day the river will stop taking individuals. One day it will want more, much more. And on certain nights, when the wind is completely silent, residents claim they can hear movement beneath the water, not splashing, not swimming. Footsteps, as though an army is slowly walking along the bottom of the river, waiting, preparing for something to rise. And perhaps the most disturbing detail of all, the river no longer appears only in Black Hollow. Over the years, people around the world have reported seeing black water in dreams. The same river, the same whispers, the same impossible reflections. And every dream ends the same way. A face emerging from the darkness beneath the surface, looking directly at them, waiting for them to look back. Several months after Emily Carter vanished, investigators reviewed her final thermal recordings one last time. At first, they noticed nothing unusual. Then, someone slowed the footage to 1 frame per second. Near the end of the recording, just beneath the surface, a shape becomes visible for less than a second. A human face, then another, then dozens, then hundreds. And among them, investigators identified Daniel Mercer, Emily Carter, the missing diver, and people who were still alive, standing together beneath the river, looking upward, as if waiting for new arrivals.